up, everyone? Welcome back to the Charter Podcast, brought to you by St. Xavier University. I'm Ruthie 𝗶𝗟. He is Clay Harbor, donning his Raiders silver and black today. If you are watching this on YouTube or on CHSN, Clay, explain yourself.
Well, I didn't realize that I was wearing the Raiders silver and black. I just picked out a suit that I had gotten from the dry cleaner. It was nice and pressed. And, I had Pro Football Weekly today, so I had to suit up. And honestly, it's a little bit because I'm a little bit behind on laundry. I need to take some suit to the dry cleaners.
I hear you.
And this is what I had left. So I'm still all Bears, baby, but this is, you have to go with what you got.
No, you look stunning, per usual. Oh, good. You do too, Ruthie. You look beautiful.
Thanks, Ruthie. You do as well.
Thank you. Thanks, Clay. Want to talk some football? We are getting ready for Bears Raiders, obviously coming off of the Bears' first win of the season when they took it to the house against the Dallas Cowboys. Really a nice performance from the Bears in all three phases on Sunday at Soldier Field. Now they are looking ahead to try and get their first road win of the season. Clay, if I were to ask you three things you want to see carry over from the Cowboys game to the Raiders game, what would those three things be?
Dang, that's a good question right there.
Just threw that one at you.
And the carryover is really good. But obviously, I want to see the Caleb Williams timing throws carry over. You've heard Ben Johnson talk about how his footwork is timing up with his progressions, his reads 1, 2, 3. And if you have the right footwork, it's going to get you there on time and when you're supposed to be at these reads, because there's certain holes. The way you set up these offenses is the first read is supposed to be open. And if that's not open, then the second read, and it just naturally progresses with your feet. So that makes the timing better. And Caleb has been doing a good job of playing on time. So I'd love to see the timing, the in-pocket stuff, the under-center stuff continue to do well. And then
I'm glad you brought that up real quick. If I could just tag on to that, because Ben Johnson talked yesterday about where he saw the most improvement from Caleb was he was playing with his feet, which I think is such an interesting sort of diagnosis of what we all saw. He, first read, first hitch, second read, second hitch. I thought that was, kind of talking about Caleb Williams and his comfort operating in the pocket was a really nice sort of explanation of what we saw on Sunday.
No, that was great. Obviously, Ben is a former college quarterback, worked for some great quarterbacks, and he's a guy who knows how important it is to line your feet up with your target and with timing. Timing and feet are huge. That's why you always hear it. People always hear footwork. Like, what do they mean? A lot of it is timing. When you hear footwork, it means timing, and obviously your steps, making sure that you have a good base and all those things. But Caleb has been doing a very good job with that. Number two, offensive line. I mean, you go from allowing all these sacks and pressures. Last year Caleb got sacked 68 times. Obviously, you revamped this offensive line. Braxton Jones, 12 pressures allowed in the first two games, gave up none last week. They got one quarterback hit against Caleb Williams, sacked 0 times since the first time since he was playing in college against UCLA. So to me, you got to keep that going. Yeah. Obviously, Darnell Wright's a little injured, and you got a harder defensive line this week.
I don't know if you saw this because you were taping your show. Darnell Wright didn't participate again today. No DNP. Oof. So that's really going to be tough, especially when you're talking about Max Crosby being on the other side of the football this weekend. I will say this. Declan Doyle talked very, very highly of Theo Benedict today, and I know everyone's like, Theo Benedict, like, it's an eye roll, like he played in Canada. He plays really well, and he's prepared. And I think it's interesting, Clay, going into the Raiders game, if Theo Benedict is getting those reps with the ones all week long, he's going to be even more prepared for that situation come Sunday. And I think also where we've seen Ben Johnson use his sort of creativity is when you put 3 tackles on the field, maybe you throw an 𝗦cie 𝗰𝗶𝗹 over there as well.
Yeah, it's kind of fascinating that, 𝗦cie is your backup right tackle, and that you're still going with Theo Benedict in that situation. I know he's got a little bit more experience, but that's interesting. But, yeah, I think Theo's a solid player. He's not going to just get overmatched. He's a guy that does have talent, and he's a competitor. So I think he's a guy that's going to stand up and have a decent game. You just got to make sure you have a plan for that too. you got to know that you got to obviously use the tight ends to chip block Max Crosby. You got the running backs to chip. I remember as a tight end, we'd go in if we had situations where our starting tackle was out. We knew, hey, you might not get out on as many routes this week, but that could mean a bigger week for some of the receivers. Maybe Komet won't have as many downfield plays because he's me focusing a lot on helping the tackle.
Komet, by the way, was a limited participant yesterday, full participant today.
Okay.
So he'll be good to go. That's good news. Colston Loveland also did not practice today again, second day in a row. So we're getting a little bit more concerned as we move through the week. I think when you see the injury report on Wednesday, Clay, you're like, okay, they were in full pads yesterday. You were out there. You saw the 7 minutes that we get to see of stretching and the beginning of individual drills. But to have some of your big names that have some injury concerns not practice on Wednesday is not as concerning, I think, as when you see them not practice on Thursday, when it's maybe a lighter day, lighter practice, and you say, oh boy, maybe you're actually getting ready to play without some of these big names. I want to get to your number 3 thing to carry over too, because I keep interrupting you. But you have Caleb Williams in timing with his timing. You have the offensive line protecting, and I imagine number 3, we're going to look at the defensive side of the ball.
We're going to look at the defensive side of the ball, and obviously they gave up too much in the run game, but coverage-wise, I mean, they were excellent going against a big-time quarterback. So I want to see that carry over because a lot of people aren't talking about Geno Smith as one of the top quarterbacks in the league. He is. Mm-hmm. He's second in passing yards. Yeah, he had one game where he had three interceptions. You can't take advantage of that. But if you give Geno time, if you give him the opportunity to move around the pocket and not get pressure on him, he can pick you apart.
Yeah.
He's a guy that's a real solid NFL quarterback that, given the time, he will pick you apart. But the thing you got to realize, this offensive line,
one of the worst in the league,
is one of the worst in the league. You said you watched the game. I watched the game. The Raiders allowed pressure on 64.7% of Smith's dropbacks in week 3, the highest rate of the entire week. And the other thing is crazy is he was only blitzed 11.8% of the times per True Media. So he's getting pressured. He's getting pressured with 4 pass rushers. You saw what happened to Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl when the Eagles pressured him so much without blitzing. When you're not blitzing and you're getting pressure and you're not taking any of these defensive backs out of the defensive backfield, I don't care who you are. You even saw Tom Brady when he lost to the Giants. You are not going to be successful. So the Bears have it right there, what the Commanders were able to do to Geno Smith. You got to get pressure on him with your front 4. So big game for Montez Sweat again. He had 6 pressures in the sack last week. Gervon Dexter had 6 pressures, was doing good from the inside. So you want to see those guys continue to get to the quarterback, to put pressure on the quarterback, and that's going to take some pressure off your defensive backfield that's missing, obviously, Jalen, probably TJ again at linebacker, and probably Kyler again at slot. So one more week, hopefully get to the bye week, get some of these dogs back. Mm-hmm. But for now, that pressure will do big things for this defensive backfield.
Yeah, Geno Smith has been sacked 12 times this season already. The offensive line, many are diagnosing it as the worst in the league. So there's a huge opportunity here for the Bears defensive line to continue to build some steam, build some momentum. Grady Jarrett also a non-participant again today. 5 guys, 5 starters potentially.
And Grady too.
Yeah. So that's no fun.
No.
But maybe a good sort of matchup for your, defense to be down a little bit. Tremaine Edmunds, obviously one of our, superstars of the game against the Cowboys. You want to see that carry over. I wanted to ask you this, Clay. I felt like the Charter podcast is maybe our best opportunity to sort of have a discussion on this. Do you think with TJ out, Tremaine is playing bad? And I don't mean that they don't play well together. I just mean, do you feel like Tremaine Edmunds stepped up in TJ Edwards' absence? And is there something that you can see when you watch the game or you watch film that is allowing him to do so when TJ's not on the field?
That's an interesting question. I don't think it has to do with TJ being out. I mean, maybe mentally he's just more focused because he realizes that, hey, it's carrying just me. I got to do this. I got Noah Sewell here. Noah Sewell had a solid game.
Yeah.
Wasn't great. Some things to clean up, but I thought he played well. I thought he did good in that spot. But Tremaine realizing TJ's out. If we
more
want
mental,
to be good,
you think, then
more mental. If we want to be a successful defense, I'm going to have to pick this up. You saw him 15 tackles. He was shedding blocks. He obviously had the 2 interceptions and a pass defended, a 53 pass rating when targeted. So he was good in coverage. He was good against the run. He was flying all over the field. And hopefully he can keep that going, because the physically, you look at this guy, what he's able to do, the size, the speed, he should be doing that every week.
Yeah, it was
freak
really,
of nature.
Yeah, freak. You saw him yesterday in the locker room. And you're like, oh boy, this man is a big boy.
Man. I'm 6'4". I'm like, a linebacker taller than me. That's crazy.
Yeah, he's a specimen for sure. And you see why Dennis Allen likes a player like that in his system. I think also, Clay, we have to talk about Tyrique Stevenson. And Dennis Allen talked about Tyrique Stevenson today for an extended period of time. He was asked about sort of his, obviously, game-changing play on that first Cowboys drive to knock the ball out and rip it out the way it did. It felt like that catapulted, the offense, who went 3 and out to start the game. Offense takes over, they score. I think Tyrique Stevenson deserves more credit than maybe what he's getting this week for the way that altered the trajectory of the game. Huge game changer. Okay, with that being said, Dennis Allen spoke about Tyrique Stevenson today, obviously played really well in the game on Sunday and was very complimentary of that, but he was asked about Tyrique Stevenson's effort and work ethic. And Dennis Allen said he's still looking for more consistency from Tyrique Stevenson on that front. And Dennis Allen said he had a really good week last week. And it's more for him the mental game of that position, which, as we know, you have to have a short memory to play cornerback in the National Football League. For Tyrique Stevenson to sort of, not necessarily, I wouldn't call it a call out by his defensive coordinator, but to sort of put that out in the open of saying we're still looking for more consistency from Tyrique Stevenson, which I think is what a lot of Bears fans feel as well, is, he'll have these great games and then it sort of goes back to, oh no, you have a perfect passer rating with 𝗻𝗻 St. So, which is a tough matchup. And I think it helped Tyrique Stevenson, who was the first one to admit that it helped that CeeDee Lamb went down, right? Like that, for Tyrique Stevenson not to have to cover him. It's going to be a challenge, again, for the secondary in this game. Tyrique Stevenson, does a game like the one he had where he had success, he contributed to a win, he's got to have a quick memory there too, right? You got to go out there and you got to work all week the way you did last week, as if you're still looking for your first win.
Something I realized later in my career, like sometimes early in your career, you have a good game, like you get a win, you're feeling good. Maybe you go home, you don't really watch the film right after the game. You kind of, you don't get into this, your same routine that you do. Say you come out, you have a tough game, you guys lose. I'm watching the film as soon as I get home. I want to learn, what did I do to where I was off here? So you're just so much hungrier. You want to get back to practice. You're watching the tape. So sometimes you take your foot off the gas early in my career. Later in my career, when I was playing much more consistent and better football, no matter what, you get back into it. You watch that first game. If it was a great game, if it was the best game you've ever played, the worst game, doesn't matter. Getting a workout, watching the film, getting ready for next week. And that's what you got to do as a young player. Yes, Kyler had a good game, a really good game. Let's look at some of the numbers. Tyrique. I think I called him Tyler. Sorry, Tyrique.
I thought you said Kyler.
Kyler, yeah.
Still waiting for
Tyler,
that one.
Mixture between Tyrique and Kyler.
Yeah.
But Tyrique Stevenson, 8 targets, 2 receptions allowed, 9 yards total, 2 PBUs, obviously the big fumble, and a 39 QBR, or quarterback rating when targeted. But let's remember, CeeDee Lamb didn't play. Matchup league. If I'm playing against the Cowboys, say, just for the Cowboys' sake, back when I was with the Eagles and I'm getting ready for 𝗻𝗀 𝗂𝗋, and the difference in meaning if I go against 𝗻𝗀 𝗂𝗋 and give up no sacks and block and have a heck of a game, or if the backup to 𝗻𝗀 𗂃 because 𝗂𝗋 goes out in the first play. Yeah. I mean, it's so much different. You're playing against one of the best players in the entire NFL versus some backup. And yes, Pickens is there too, but obviously it's different. You're not going against CeeDee Lamb. So now Jakobi Meyers is obviously a solid receiver. Not great. Not a guy like Amon-Ra, Justin Jefferson, what they saw the first 2 weeks.
He's dangerous, Jakobi.
He is dangerous. And then we saw at the end of that game, they had another receiver, Pop. We'll get the name for you, but I thought he's really good. He's quick. He can catch some balls. for the Raiders there. That was a lot of it was in garbage time, but he's a guy that can play. So it matters who you play against as well.
Right. And obviously they have playmakers all over the field on offense. You talk about Brock Bowers. You talk about obviously
Bowers, Michael Mayer.
Everyone's talking this week. Ben mentioned it. I think Declan mentioned it. Maybe Dennis Allen mentioned it. They lead the league in explosive plays, which is crazy when you think about it. So they have explosive ability, and I think the Bears did a really nice job of not allowing explosives against the Dallas Cowboys. So hopefully that momentum carries over as well. With that being said, Clay, for the Bears to have explosive plays, you want to see this run game take that next step for the Bears. You want to see them take the next step in the run game, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it can, because this run defense, and like you said, you watched the game as well. What's the first thing you noticed against obviously the Commanders? You notice that they're giving up. They gave up 6.3 yards per carry, 201 yards, and they were just getting the ball ran down their throat. And Marcus Mariota, that gave him a lot of space to kind of be comfortable. He had a really good game against them. Obviously, he's a backup quarterback, but when you allow 200 yards on the ground, it gives the Bears a great opportunity to do some good things on the ground.
Yeah.
Okay, this isn't a great run defense. You can really work out some of the kinks in your run game here. I don't know if you're going to be running a little more gap scheme. You've seen them kind of shy away from some of the zone stuff to go a little more gap scheme, a little more downhill of late. But I'm curious to see how they attack this defense, because I think that the ground game is going to be what is most susceptible for them to get some big plays. The Raiders really haven't stopped anyone on the ground yet.
Yeah, and that's something that they are emphasizing this week, clearly. Ben Johnson talked about it in his Wednesday press conference. Declan Doyle talked about it in his Thursday press conference. They are focused on the run game. They had a special film session, it sounds like.
The whole team watched
the run game, right? And so that's cool because, and Declan Doyle talked about it today, remember, it has been a huge emphasis for Ben Johnson that the wide receivers play a big role in the run game. The tight ends play a big role in the run game. Obviously, the offensive line and the running backs have a job to do as well. But anyone who's on the field, is going to play a huge part. And that matters for Ben Johnson in the passing game as well. He said, no block, no rock, which we know. And now we're getting all these Ben Johnson sayings, which I feel like people are getting sick of. But good, better, best. Yeah.
Yeah, good, better, best. We had a segment on the Big Pro Football show that. But the run game. I'm sorry, 3 yards per carry last week for DeAndre Swift. I mean, you got to get more going than that.
Yeah,
you got to get more going.
And they will. I think they're close. I think, and that's what Ben Johnson said. They're very encouraged by watching the film because they're just small details away from taking off. And I like what you said yesterday, Clay, when we were talking about it. You don't necessarily have to average 5 yards every time you hand the ball off. It's 3 yards, 3 yards, 3 yards, 30 yards.
Yes.
3 yards, 3 yards, 3 yards, 25 yards, right? Like those are the carries where you feel like, okay, you want to be able to have explosive plays in the run game as well.
Yeah, like you look at Saquon Barkley last year. Oh. Yes, he led the league in yards per carry, but he had a lot of 3 yards in the cloud of dust, but he led the league in explosive runs. So that's why he had such a successful season. You're able to break this the one tackle. You're able to get this one block. Then all of a sudden you're out the gate and you have some space there. And next thing you know, you have a 100-yard game. You're averaging 6 yards a carry, but realistically, you're getting 3 yards, 3 yards, 3 yards, but 30. So that's really realistically how a run game is going to work.
And Swift has the ability to, once you get him in open space, man, he is Swifty, He is, you're not going to laugh at me saying Swifty?
No, you're a Swifty.
I'm a Swifty. I'm not a crazy Swifty, but I do love Taylor Swift. Okay, so DeAndre Swift, you want to see Kyle Monangai take it that next step as well. Obviously, he got more carries last week. You imagine his role is going to continue to grow. So that's huge. I am interested to see how this plays out with the offensive line if Darnell Wright is in fact a no-go. And we talked about it a little bit, but man, here's the issue with offensive lines, right? You're like, man, the offensive line is going to be a strength of this Bears team, right? That's what we were saying months ago.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden you're like, uh-oh, there's no left tackle. Then all of a sudden you say, oh, Braxton Jones actually, he played real well against the Cowboys. And then all of a sudden Darnell Wright goes down and you say, this is why depth and development in your offensive line is so important. I think you're going to see a good taste of that this weekend if Darnell Wright isn't out there, because it feels like they had 𝗻𝗶𝗹 active as their swing tackle. If Darnell Wright is inactive on game day, and we're playing a lot of hypotheticals here, so our apologies, but do you have 𝗻𝗶𝗃 and 𝗦𝗵𝗶𝗹 both active, and who gets the start? On the right side.
From what I've seen throughout training camp and being there, I still like 𝗦𝗵𝗶𝗃. I know a lot of people are down on him now. They said he hit the rookie wall at the left tackle in the
GM said
camp.
that.
The GM said that in training camp. The rookie wall is when you've played like 13, 14 games, and that's the entirety of a college season, and you're just run down because you went from the combine to the draft, and not the rookie wall in training camp. But no, I think Ozzie, especially on the right side, I think he can play.
Yeah.
I'm a believer in Ozzie. I think obviously he's going to develop, and I know he's a rookie, but I would probably go Ozzie. I think Theo's good too.
Yeah.
Theo's probably a little more physical, and he's going to go off the ball a little bit more. But Ozzie, for a rookie, he's just very like technically sound.
Yeah.
He's going to do everything right. He's going to know the playbook. He's not going to mess anything up. He's just, like we've talked to his former college coach, he's a guy that just does everything right. So I wouldn't mind seeing Ozzie there, honestly, if we know for a fact that Darnell Wright isn't going to be active.
Right.
But like you said, swing tackle, a guy that can play left and right. Obviously, we know Theo's better at the left tackle, so then that's when you would see 𝗻𝗶𝗃 at the right tackle.
Okay. It's just interesting to sort of play the puzzle piece game. I want to also talk about Luther Burden, because you probably haven't heard this yet either, Clay, but Richard Hightower talked about him in the return game. And we'll get into special teams here in a minute, because there's a huge opportunity for the Bears here. But in terms of Luther Burden III, who had an unbelievable game, 3 catches, 101 yards in the receiving game, he also played a role in special teams. And Richard Hightower said that he was really upset after the game about one of the returns, and he was texting HT that night about how he could be better, which is kind of what you were talking about, that short memory, right?
Love that, though.
In the return game, after you have a huge game, 3 catches, 100 yards, he's worried about the returns. Like, that says a lot to me about the player. And we're still getting to know Luther Burden. You know, like he's not a talkative guy. He's a rookie. He's kind of just in there doing his job, and maybe got off on the wrong foot with the coaching staff, just because he was behind due to some of the injuries he dealt with early in his career, early in camp and the offseason. But it was cool to hear that from Richard Hightower, and Declan Doyle sort of echoed those sentiments, being like, he's really working closely with, all of his coaches. Mentioned Antoine Randall particularly. Like, they are really, sounds like they're working hard with him to get him right in all phases of the game. And I think it's cool to hear that, that's how deeply a player like him cares right now about his production in 2 phases of the game.
Well, that's exactly what you want to hear from a young player, and a guy that, like you said, had an excellent game on offense. He's texting HT, talking about special teams.
Don't you love that? I knew you would love that.
You love to. I love that type of stuff.
I knew you would love that.
That's what you want to hear. That's how you know.
Cool.
That's how you know you got a player.
Yeah.
When he is focused, he's after the game, he's watching the tape. Man, if I could have just done that, because now he's focused on getting better and improving. He's not a guy like, I had a big game. I caught that flea flicker, another pass over the middle. Just playing good football is something you have to have such a short memory, and you have to be so focused on just getting better and improving. So that's huge.
Yeah.
But like you said, Ruthie, there is a big opportunity against the Raiders. And like you said before as well, you watched Commanders game like I did.
Yep.
So what stood out to you on the special teams?
Return coverage.
Yeah.
The punt and kick return coverage unit is a weakness. Field position was a huge factor in the game for the Commanders early on, especially. And then when you can't sort of settle in, it really didn't give the Raiders any chance to come back in that game, because you just couldn't stop the Commanders, who were capitalizing on all these short field opportunities. That would be huge for the Chicago Bears, who have played, they've had their up and down moments, right, in special teams, but they played a really clean game, I thought, on Sunday. And if they can pop off some of these returns, man, give Caleb Williams the short field offensive player of the week in the NFC, which we haven't spoken about yet. I want to get to that next.
Yeah.
That would be a way to sort of win the game in the margins, right? Like play complementary football, take advantage of the special teams weaknesses. And, you know, Richard Hightower talked today about their special teams coordinator, McMahon, who's been in the league for 20 years, right? And he's like, he's going to get them right. Like, we aren't sitting here being like, this is a bad special teams unit. Of course, that's what a coach is going to tell us, the media, because that gets back. But, you know, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to learn that, like, that's an opportunity they could exploit.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a big momentum swing when you have a big return. Like the offense gets such a big momentum boost. You have a big return. Even the defense, when you get a stop like with inside the 10 or the 5, the momentum and the feel, the vibe and the field position, it's just huge. So that's something that is special. So I mean, listen to this. I mean, this is pretty crazy stat, but the special teams group allowed 39.3 yards per return on 3 kickoffs and 25.4 yards per punt return and a touchdown on 5 punts. So both coverage units, kickoff coverage and punt coverage, did not have a good day for the Raiders, to put it nicely. Like you're not going to win many games doing that. I know a lot has been said about Chip Kelly and Ashton Jeanty not getting going. I don't even think we've gotten there yet.
We got to talk about Jeanty.
Yeah, but Jeanty not getting going and all the things. But if you're not able to cover and you're giving up that field position, you're not giving yourself an opportunity.
Yeah. Let's talk about Jeanty.
Yeah.
Ben Johnson talked about him yesterday as someone that maybe he was trying to trade up in the draft to go get.
Yeah, he made it sound like he loved Jeanty. He
loved Jeanty, but like I think everyone loved Jeanty coming out of the draft. How could you not, right? He's an explosive player. He hasn't really had an opportunity to showcase that to the best of his ability. And I think a lot of that has to do with their blocking up front. But, you know, that's a player that Dennis Allen said today, you do not want to see him get to that second or third level of your defense because it's dangerous. Ben Johnson, obviously so complimentary of this player, and that's going to be a challenge because this Bears defense, I know that they played a great game, only gave up 14 points, but the Cowboys 5 yards a carry, 6 yards a carry average against them, 5.5. So, you know, Ben Johnson said it well yesterday. He's like, you know, it's a balance because like, obviously you don't want to give up 5 yards a carry, but when you look up at the scoreboard and you see we only gave up 14 points, like you're pretty happy with how that turned out and the game plan. But with that being said, they're going to have to pay a lot of extra attention to a guy like Jeanty.
Yes, he's only averaging 3.1 yards per carry and 48 yards per game, but he is a guy that if you give him space, he can play. His offensive line just hasn't been good. So, I mean, to me, watching the tape, he hasn't had a great season, but his offensive line isn't doing him any favors either. Like, how are you going to run in some of these holes? He's got like the most yards after contact or some crazy stat. All of his yards last week came after contact, and it just goes to show that he's not getting any holes open to run the ball. And I don't think his reads have been perfect, but for a guy that was taken 6th in the draft and obviously with such a storied college career, and you'll see it too on the back end of some of these runs, that he will finish these runs strong and break some tackles.
Yeah.
So this is a guy you got to account for, especially after coming off of a tough performance, you know, last week in the passing game. But like you said, they were leaving light boxes. They were running a lot of cover 2 to stop this Cowboys passing game. Dak from really exploiting them. They're missing some big cornerbacks. So they were leaving some light box. So now I think this week, obviously, you don't want to give Geno a ton of, you know, of single high because he can really pick you apart. But I think you do have to focus a little more on stopping the run this week than you did last week with the Cowboys and Dak. And obviously CD went out early, but Pickens and everybody else there.
Yeah. Very interested to see sort of this Pete Carroll, Ben Johnson matchup because it's sort of like the old versus the new age coach. Like, and not that Pete Carroll acts old by any means. This man, I mean, when I was watching this game, the Commanders game, and
up
I'm
and
like,
down the sidelines.
He's
He's got to share his steps. How many steps do you get in Pete Carroll?
He's unbelievable. I remember there was a video back in training camp. He was like running wind sprints like during special teams period. Like he is unbelievable. Very cool to see him, sort of functioning the way he
NFL
is.
history.
Yeah. Older than Belichick?
Well, I think he's,
now he
he's
will
74, so he's older now than Belichick.
Right.
Yeah, and I think you have to subtract a little from Belichick because he's got a 24-year-old girlfriend.
You take years off or you add years to
You take years off.
Okay.
Because
didn't expect us to go here. Pete Carroll, obviously such an experienced coach. He and the quarterback have such a great relationship. You can't ever take a Pete Carroll coach team lightly.
Never.
And so that I think is what is, Ben Johnson's messaging this weekend is, all right, we got a really experienced team, coach, quarterback. This is going to be a tough matchup regardless of how they looked last week. And Clay, it's week to week league, right?
Yeah.
It's a
you got to go 1-0 every week.
Got to go 1-0 every week, and you never know what's going to happen. I will say this. There are some rumblings out there.
Let's hear them. What are the rumblings?
It's expected to be 50% Bears fans at this
I
stadium.
heard that.
That would be nice.
I don't
make it a home atmosphere for the Bears.
I mean, I know a lot of friends that are going there.
I feel like everyone's going.
Half of our producer's going.
Our Edgar's going?
Edgar's going to the game.
Edgar's going too? And bowling. Are you going with bowling?
Yeah. See?
That is so fun.
Everybody's going. I was thinking
about it.
Why are we
going?
I might book a last minute flight and go out there with bowling and Edgar to Stadium Swim. I'm considering it. On my drive to Wrigleyville, because after this I'm doing a hit on the score with Marshall Harris, Layla Rahimi, and Mark Grody, and they're doing a live hit from Wrigleyville at Old Crow. I'm gonna check flights, Edgar, and I'm gonna see.
What do we think they're going for right now? Go to Expedia.
The flights are probably $1,000.
They may be dropped now though. Like I feel like they were. I looked a while ago.
Round trip $1,000 would be cheap. I'm thinking it's probably like $1,500.
Where would you stay?
I actually have a buddy out there who's got a 2-bedroom suite that said I could stay with him. But the tickets also, we have to buy tickets. If I couldn't get a credential this late to try to get the press box.
I think it's too late for
Too late for the credential.
Yeah. I really thought about going. This was one of the games where I was like, I really want to go just to see that stadium.
Stadium.
Did you hear that the renderings for the Bears Stadium in Arlington Heights is by the same company? It would be very similar.
Ooh, I love that.
Same company, same architects, whatever. So it would be very similar to Allegiant Stadium.
Yeah.
So that would be cool. Obviously, a road environment. And listen, I was thinking about this because we saw the Bears use silent cadence in Detroit.
That's so important, though. That's great. That's good to know. You said 50-50 fan base.
Yeah, that's what they're saying. Yeah. And it might, I don't know, Raiders fans, I feel like don't live in Vegas. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's not like the old school Raiders fans from Oakland.
I'm sure there are sports fans in Vegas, but it just feels like it's a destination for the OA team to come
with the face paint on.
Yeah.
And wearing the Raiders outfit, just ready to go for a game. He's in Oakland still.
Right. He flies in for the game. Right. I think he was at the Commanders game. They kept showing him. He must go to every game. Crazy. But no, I think we saw the Bears use silent cadence. If it does come to that, we saw the Bears use silent cadence in Detroit, and to be honest, Clay wasn't so shabby. They were all right. So I think that's encouraging. And, the offense wasn't the number one on the list of problems in that game in Detroit. The game got away from them quickly. But I think also, Declan Doyle talked about it today. You always prepare to use silent cadence on the road. And then if you're like, hey, it's not that loud, let's, we can slow things down and, go back to our normal cadence.
Yeah.
That's an option as well.
Exactly. The silent cadence, I was impressed with how the Bears used it. Obviously, it's easier when you have a veteran offensive line like the Bears do.
Sure.
So these guys know how to use silent cadence. I know early in my career I hated it because my whole mindset when I was blocking, I'm thinking jump the snap count, jump the snap count, jump the snap count. You want to set hut and you're moving right when the ball's moving because when you're an undersized guy, you got to get on these edge rushers, and it's really something that is
Clay. Whenever Clay talks about being undersized, you look at him in this chair. If you're watching right now, he's so scrunched. He's not undersized, but you were for your position.
Terms,
I know
when you're trying to block a 290-pound defensive end, you're undersized, and you had to fire off on the snap count.
Yeah,
and it's important. But these guys did a great job. That was one of the first things I looked at when I watched the all 22 of the Lions game, and Detroit's loud. Detroit's loud. I know.
Clay, I was there.
Oh, you were there.
Clay.
Okay.
That was, and I'm not being dramatic, that was one of the loudest environments. I've covered lots of big games, rivalry games in my career. I've been very lucky to do so.
Went to Michigan.
Been in the the big house, which it doesn't necessarily the
dome.
The domes always get really loud
like
too.
Your head's ringing.
That was, and it was their home opener.
Yes.
There was so much hype after they'd just gotten embarrassed by Green Bay. They do the player intros running, the offensive line is running through the tunnel, the pyrotechnics, the smoke machine, whatever. That place was so unbelievable. That atmosphere, kudos to the Detroit fans.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a fan base that has been through it, right?
Yeah.
And now they can feel like they're showing up. That place was so loud. Like, I'm almost glad that they had that so early in the season to be like, okay, well, it's not going to get louder than that.
Yeah. And it was loud back when I played before this new age Lions team back in 2016. I was on the last
went to the playoffs.
Yeah, I was on the last playoff team for the Lions. I always talk about that. And we had some good crowds when we started winning at the end of the season. We're trying to get into that wild card spot after starting slow, and we ended up coming back and fighting our way into the wild card, and then we had to travel to Seattle.
Yeah.
Talk about Lumen Stadium, the 12th man in Seattle.
There you go.
Couldn't hear yourself
I've
think
never been
out
there.
Yeah,
never been there. Yeah.
That one was pretty loud, and we were obviously doing silent count. You're trying to see the head movement of the center. But the Bears, to get back on topic, the Bears handled that well.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's going to be another environment from looking at where we're playing the rest of the season that's going to be as loud as that. So them doing that early in the year with the silent count is something that is very encouraging to me.
Okay, love that. Anything else you wanted to touch on before we
I
wrap
think
this
I
thing
had
up?
I had something.
Did you have some nuggets? You always have some nuggets.
I had one nugget that I was just doing some research, and I thought this stat really kind of just told a little bit of a story.
What I want to talk about while you're looking for that.
You go first.
We got to talk about Caleb Williams, Offensive Player of the Week, and
this
not
will
just
fit
that.
Right with that.
Okay, great. Not just that, but the way he responded. Right, Ben Johnson told us yesterday that he tried to have a moment for him in team meeting, and he wanted to give him some love and appreciation. Ben Johnson told us Caleb wasn't having any of it. He's very stoic. He's on to the Raiders. And then when we talked to Caleb Williams about it, he said, "Listen." He basically said,
"He was cool.
It's cool." And we're like, okay. Which, listen, it was very, to me, it felt a little calculated, as it should, right? Like, I think that's messaging to his whole team.
Yes.
He was maybe excited to win it and to have that recognition, as he should, because he deserved it. But I think also, like, that's messaging and that's leadership, right? I feel like that's a way to be like, okay, I want the vets on my team to know that I am eyes ahead. I'm not excited about it. And like, if you're a vet on that team, you're like,
heck yeah,
LFG. Like,
yeah, he's not worried about the individual stuff. He wants to win football games.
Right.
The word that Ben
we
Johnson
gotta lock in
used,
again.
I thought was perfect. Was stoic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I love that.
Yeah.
But here's a stat that I thought was interesting, because I think it tells a story about how Caleb Williams is growing in this offense, and Ben Johnson's trust in him is also growing.
Okay.
So the first 2 weeks of the season, the Bears had the 5th lowest rate of motion in the NFL. They were bottom 5. Last week, they had the 3rd highest rate of motion and shifts in the NFL. So that tells you that Ben is getting more comfortable, putting more on Caleb's plate, thinks he can get him to the line faster, can shift him faster, motion him faster.
Love it.
And that's something that the Raiders struggle with. Watching the Raiders, they struggle with the shifts and motions.
Okay.
So they play a ton of zone coverage. It's kind of similar to Dallas. They play a ton of zone, not much man at all. But now you can start getting advantages in the zone. You can shift, you can motion over, and now you got 3 guys on 3 guys. You got 3 guys on 2 guys. You can really shift and motion to really flood some zones. So I thought that was something that was really cool. Seems to me like that means Ben is getting more confident and comfortable with Caleb running the offense with the motions and the shifts going from very low to very high.
I love it. That's a great nugget.
Little nuggie right there.
That's film study.
I love a good nuggie.
You too love a nugget. I like a chicken nugget.
Chicken nugget, yeah.
Edgar, how are we doing on time, my friends? I wish I had.
We're at 40.
We're at 40. Let's go a couple more minutes, Clay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's like when you think about Caleb Williams and this offense and the recognition. Oh, how about the fact that Caleb Williams, well, let's go chronologic.
Yeah.
NFC Offensive Player of the Week through 3 weeks. J.J. McCarthy, week 1. Jared Goff, week 2.
Oh, wow.
Caleb Williams, week 3.
I didn't even think about
NFC North,
that.
baby, is brutal. Okay? I mean, it might be Jordan Love next week. Like, this is a really strong division, and obviously recency bias because the Bears are coming off their first win, and it was against a very depleted Cowboys defense. But you feel like the Bears you just feel a lot better after week 3 than you felt after week 2. And I think when the Bears play the Lions again, it's going to look very different if they continue on this sort of upward trajectory and continue to build confidence and trust between each other.
I'm 100% with you. And looking back when I went and watched that game for the second time, I'm like, man, there were just a few plays, and with all the penalties they had, there was just a few plays that really, really shot them in the foot.
In the Detroit game, you mean?
In the Detroit game.
Yeah.
And like I don't think they're as far off as people think from that level of football. And here's my thoughts on Caleb Williams. Obviously, we've talked about him and we're on to the next week. But last week, what I was impressed with was obviously his timing in how he got the ball out quick. And especially, Matt Eberflus doesn't blitz a lot, but he did blitz Caleb 7 times. And in those 7 blitzes, Caleb completed 6 passes for 134 yards, 2 touchdowns, which led to a 158.3 passer rating when targeted. So what that says to me, watching him against the blitz and looking at his numbers, is the game slowing down. Young quarterbacks typically struggle against the blitz. It's difficult. The game speeds up. You got a couple extra rushers coming at you. You don't got as much time, and now you're going to speed up. You're going to make a mistake. But no, Caleb stayed calm. He went through his reads. His footwork was good, getting through his progressions, and that was something that was very impressive, and obviously was a big reason why the Bears were able to have so much success, and they were able to he was able to win the Player of the Week.
And it's all connected, right, Clay? Because the offensive line protected. Caleb Williams was prepared and operated in a system where it felt like he was ready for that game. The run game had mild success. The pass game it all was clicking on offense, which leads to confidence, which leads to more clicking, which leads to more confidence. And I think that's sort of the underrated sort of cycle that you want to just sort of see continue to churn of let's put good games together. Let's stack good and Caleb Williams might get sacked twice in this game. That doesn't necessarily mean that the offensive line does a bad job.
Yeah.
So I think there's like a lot to build on. There's a lot of hope and promise after seeing a team play that way. I don't care who they played. I don't care that there was, there's no Max Crosby on the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
There was a better Max Crosby on the Dallas Cowboys and they traded him away. But that's beside the point.
So who you picking? I'm
picking the Bears.
You're picking the Bears?
Here's what I want to get to. I'm picking the Bears. I don't have a score yet. I'm picking the Bears. Except I picked the Cowboys to win last week, and
I did too.
And I almost feel like that worked in the Bears' favor.
Yeah, so maybe we should stick with it.
No, I'm picking the Bears because guess what, Clay? I almost called you Caleb.
I mean, I could see it.
If there's
a little, same hair maybe.
Same hair,
similar hair.
Okay.
Yeah. No. All right.
Moving on.
Yeah.
No one cares that you got embarrassed at home in your season opener and you got blown out by the Detroit Lions if you enter the bye week and you're sitting at 2-2. No one cares. No one cares.
I forgot about it. I don't even remember what we were talking about. Who are the Lions?
Right.
I don't care. You're 2-2.
2-2 into the bye week. Ride that momentum high.
And you got Commanders coming out,
which is like the ghost of Christmas past.
It couldn't be more perfect. Talk about comeback season. Let's go.
Yeah. And that'll be another Monday night game for the Bears to be like, look, world, we're different now, right?
Yeah, I got one more nuggie.
Okay, let's go.
That I want to see. I loved how Ben Johnson had 29 passes and 28 runs, even though the running game wasn't great. Like when you're 29 passes, 28 runs, that's just, I mean, perfect balance.
Love it.
Maybe he could have went 29-29, but he only had,
The way Ben said it was like, hey, like, we're going to do what it takes to win.
Yeah.
Obviously, so coach speak. But you love to see the balance there. Like, that's very Coach Wanstead of you.
Yeah.
Like, he loves to see the run.
Yeah, that's like the first thing he looks for.
100%.
Right?
Run versus pass plays. You didn't give me your pick. You don't have to give me a score unless you have it.
I'm so torn here, but I think the Bears, I want to know which Bears team shows up, but
Right.
I think that I like the Bears here, man. I do. I think it's tough with Darnell. Obviously, I think it matters who plays.
Yeah.
If Darnell's playing and he's healthy, I like the Bears. If he's not, it's going to be tough because I think you have to change a little bit of your game plan to block and make sure Max Crosby doesn't wreck your pass game, and he's good against the run too, but wreck your pass game by pressuring Caleb. And Caleb has been so good when he hasn't been pressured.
Ben Johnson, for the second week in a row, used little bulletin board materials, opened the week being like, we're road dogs.
Road dogs.
Like, Vegas is picking against us, which is funny because they're in Vegas. So let's see if he pushed the right buttons again this week after he told his team they didn't practice well. Now we'll see. He's like, we're dogs. Let's go prove everyone wrong. I love it.
Yeah.
We hope you love it too, and we hope you're going to Vegas, and we hope you cheer loud for the Chicago Bears.
And look out for a guy named Edgar out there, and if you see him, buy him a beer.
$1,000, you could join me out
And
there.
if you see Clay, he will probably
$1,000.
have his shirt off.
Not in the stadium, but
Well,
outside the stadium, I'm sure we'd be at like a
if you're not working,
like
you could take your
stadium
shirt off.
swim, like to go to the pool, like watch the game. Isn't that like something to do?
It's
Hell
outdoors,
yeah.
there's pools,
Yeah, it's outdoors.
fans, sun.
Oh, yeah.
You're supposed to have your shirt on.
Are you?
Yeah.
Noted. He's 𝗭cie𝗶𝗹. I'm Ruthie 𝗶𝗀𝗀𝗀. Thank you so much for listening to the Charter Podcast. Always shout out to our producer, Edgar, who had a nice couple of cameos in this episode today. Hope you have a great weekend, everyone. Enjoy the game on Sunday.